Hey, hey! How y'all doing today? Another beautiful day in paradise. I'm not sure if it's going to rain or exactly what today. But today's topic is social insecurity. Do you know anybody that is having to live on disability or Social Security? If you're like me, I'm sure you probably know quite a few people. And I'm sure by this time you've probably also realized that Social Security is a big fat joke. It's anything but Social Security. Just a little bit of background about that I wanted to share with you today. It used to be called OASDI, which was Old Age Disability Insurance. Yeah, it's supposed to have been an insurance policy. It started many years ago, and it never was supposed to be like a retirement account. It was supposed to help people fill the gap, because after the war, there was a lot of old people that they ended up having to move in with their families and be taken care of. So that was supposed to have been to kind of fill the gap. And, for some reason, it has now turned into that people don't prepare for their financial future, and they're trying to live off Social Security. And it's really sad to me that I'm going into Walmart and grocery stores and in retail stores, and I'm seeing a lot of elderly people out there working, and they don't look happy. I'm not saying those who are working and they just enjoy working and all of that. Some people have told me that they're having to do it just to pay for the insurance because they need that extra money, And I'm noticing my pizza deliveries people are getting older as well. I bet probably 98% of everybody that's delivered pizza to us in the last 6 months or so have been probably over 50. I'm not joking. And so something that you may not be aware of, you may have grandparents and parents and all of that stuff, and you've seen how they've been struggling to try and live with that, but I want you to think about yourself as well, because some of you are getting close to retirement age, and I just kind of want to give you a little wake-up call, and I want to talk a minute about where that money went, okay? 7.65% out of every dollar that you ever earned was submitted to the government. Then your boss put in 7.65% out of every dollar. So up to a certain amount, okay? But let's just say, so over your lifetime, about 15.3% of every dollar that you've ever earned goes into this account. And then at the end, the earliest date right now is about 62 years old. You can take it early, or, 65 or 67. And then if you become disabled, you can pull out of that kitty. And so me being the number crunching nerd that I am, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go look and see what this account should look like if it was just me investing the money. So I got to thinking back in the day, and when me and Rob first got married, minimum wage was $3.35 an hour. Anybody remember that? $3.35 an hour? Oh my gosh. Yeah. But things were a lot cheaper back then too. I think our rent was like $100 a month, and that about killed us. But anyways, so what I did was I created a hypothetical example, and I said, what if a person started 40 years ago at 20 years old, was making $3.35 an hour, and for the rest of their life, all 40 years, they remained a minimum wage employee. Now, we know that that's not possible, right, for the most part. I mean, if you're still a minimum wage employee by the time you're, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, there's a problem. But just for sakes, just for the example's sake, I decided, okay. So what I did was I used my little compound calculator, and I started out at $3.35 an hour, and every year I gave myself an inflation raise. And over the course of time, I used to teach econ. Some of you may not know that, but anyways, the average used to be about 3% a year. You could just about guess that the average price of cost of goods and services would go up about 3%. So I said, okay, if I started out making $3.35 an hour, I worked 40 hours a week, and I did that for 40 years, how much money would I have put in? All right. And so got that number. And then I looked back and I Googled it and I said, what was the average return in the stock market over the last 40 years? Over the last 40 years. So the stock market has averaged about 11.6% over the last 40 years. So if every payday, every week, every 2 weeks, every month, or whatever, if I had taken myself 15.3% of my income and I had invested it for 40 years and did nothing else, how much money would I have available in that account 40 years later? Can anybody guess how much money that would be? $1.2 million. Okay? $1.2 million for a person who started out at $3.35 a year and remained a minimum wage employee. We know that's not right, so more than likely it should be way more than that. Okay? So let's just say, all right? So if you had $1.2 million invested, how much should you be getting off of that? In today's dollars, if you had that invested, well, you could bank on about $117,000 a year. All right. So if you was a minimum wage employee, investing that money for 40 years, you'd have $1.2 million in the bank, and you could live on about what was the number? I'm sitting here trying to look at it. How much that would be? About $117,000 a year. In today's times, that you could live on that, right? Not bad. But let's look at the Social Security, what's really happening. And again, I Googled it, looked it up. It said that the average Social Security retirement benefit as of February 2023 was $1,782 a month, or around $21,000 a year. Now, I don't know about you, but I ask all the time. I've not run into anybody who's actually making $1,782 a month. I haven't. You know, and you also have to keep in mind that some of those people who are living on that, you got Medicare, you know, insurance coming out of your check and all that stuff. So even if you were to get that, you know, by the time your insurance and all that comes out, you're making way less. So anyways, keep that in mind. $21,384 is the average a year. So the government has sucked up all your money, has invested it, using it for whatever, and they're giving you about $21,000 when in reality you should be getting about $117,000 a year or more. Take into consideration, what about all those people who have paid in and they died before they reached the age of maturity where they could withdraw that, or they never withdrew it, or those people who didn't work enough quarters that they put into the system, so they've got all of this money. And I'm not sitting here just to bash the government on how a poor job of stewardship that they have done with our money, but I want you to wake up and see what should be yours, okay? There's nothing really that we can do about it, but I just want you to know 15% of every dollar you've ever earned, if you worked for an employer and not under the table, let's just say, you should have an account in 40 years over $1 million that you could draw off of, and that's not happening. And so what you need to do is you've got to plan for yourself. What can you do with that money? I mean, I wish it would be where, you know, people like a self-directed IRA type deal. I wish our Social Security could be done just like that. You know, I don't see that happening in my lifetime. So anyways, you really have to take charge of your personal financial future, folks. You've got to get a plan A, B, and C together And Social Security is not it. It is anything but. It is social insecurity. Please do not rely on that or think that you can rely on that. I can remember back in the day my dad talking about it before he was able to draw any, and he was laughing, and he was like, good grief. He said, that Social Security check won't even cover my coffee shop bill each month. And I got to thinking about that, and I was like, you're right. All the farmers and everybody in town back in Perrywood, Arkansas, they'd go to the coffee shop every morning. They'd all eat breakfast and talk and do deals and all of that stuff, and it was a social time. But that cost money for him to do, and even though his business, he got to write that off, but he realized right away, Social Security wasn't going to help. It was a gravy fund, basically. That's what it is. If you get any of it, you're going to consider yourself lucky. And the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about too, and I'm not giving financial advice, that's not what I'm doing. I'm just going to tell you some of the things that my insights and some of the things that I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and take it at 62. Can anybody out there guess why? I'm not going to wait, even though I could get more if I waited. And, some people will look at that and think, well, good grief, Nancy, I know you're always talking about money and run numbers all the time, and you could make so much more if you waited to withdraw that. I don't want to wait. There's no guarantees that I'm going to make it till then, and you know what I can do? I don't need that money. I mean, I'll use it, but I'd rather invest it. I'd rather invest that money, go ahead and take it early, invest that money. I can do better than the government can with my money. I don't know about you. And, some people out there also, they talk about, well, people would never do it. I really think that we could set something up where it was, mandatory that we're doing it, just like a self-directed IRA. I mean, there are some really great tools out there right now and companies that can help you set up a self-directed IRA, like your 401k. Do you know where those people are putting your money? Do you know what companies you're supporting in that? Probably not. Probably not. You don't even know. What if they're putting money into companies that you don't want to be supporting certain products and services or countries or whatever? I mean, it's really, when you think about it, you don't know. And so these self-directed IRAs now that you can set up, you can put money into whatever you want to. You can put it into real estate. You can put it into crypto now, believe it or not, some of those platforms and projects. And it can grow depending on how you've got it set up, tax-free and all of that. Yeah, Gary, I see that when you run the numbers, it was a better deal anyway. I'm with you, Sorry about the chainsaw over there. I guess somebody's doing some work. But, a bird in the hand's worth two in the bush. There's no guarantees, and they keep on, robbing Peter to pay Paul on our fund. And I just want you to realize, 15% of your income is a nice chunk that the government has been socking away that for many, many years, and you are getting nothing back in return. I mean, very, very little when compared to what you should. So anyways, I'm going to sign off here. Again, just wanted to drop in just for a few minutes, and over the next 30 days, I'm going to be trying to come on here and share a little bit of insight with you, a little financial stuff. If you have any topic or anything like that you would like for me to cover, I'd like to keep these under 5 minutes each time, which would be really good. People's attention span, you're busy and all of that, but just want to give you some food for thought and some things for you to think about for your financial future. I keep on saying a lot of people are embarrassed and don't want to, say their age, but I'm fixing to be 60 years old, and I plan on living to 100. But there's a lot of things that I still want to do with my life, and those things take money. And anybody who says that money isn't important, money's the root of all evil, I think the lack of money is the root of all evil. If you don't believe so, try not having none for a little bit and figure out, how you're going to buy groceries, keep the lights on, and keep the mortgage paid, right? Anyways, all right, this is Nancy Gaskins, sowing seeds of financial hope and entrepreneurial opportunity in communities around the globe. send me your ideas. I'd love to hear them on what topics that you'd like for me to cover. See y'all later.